Can't Pay Will Take It Away is a garbage TV show from the people lacking brain cells at Channel 5, and it's just as bad as the ITV magnum opus, Jeremy Kyle. It's a show devoid of humanity and bereft of entertainment. The Can't Pay Will Take It Away follows High Court Enforcement Officers, which is a sci-fi sounding ass title if I've ever heard one, as they go into people's houses and businesses who are in debt without prior notice and either evict them, take their money to pay off the debt / set up a payment plan, or seize goods. It's not work that you can exactly be proud of, but it has to be done, and I'm sure it's done in a respectful manner, is what I would say if this wasn't being televised. From what I've seen, one of the officers seems class.
A tenant has 7 months of rent arrears, and the landlord wants the property back.
Hello, is your mum and dad here? Can you ring her on the phone? Hello, what's your name?
They discover that the tenant stopped paying her rent after losing her job with a train company.
Father is in Ghana permanently.
All right.
So she doesn't have anywhere else to go.
Is this for a month? This is a month.
Yeah.
So that your net payment, you've got £200 and 43 pence,
Yeah.
and that is your only income.
That is my only income.
This assessment maintains are not children in need for the purposes of the Children's Act, and that the family is not destitute. The outcome of this decision is that Hackney do not agree to provide support to your children as the matter stands. You have also advised me that you've recently obtained part-time employment. You explain that you are offered 8 hours a week to be paid a minimum wage. Hackney are likely to view even this extremely modest income as further evidence that you have the means to support your children. Well, we've got a contingency fund, so I'll give you some money today to last you a couple of days so that we can resolve this situation. All right, it's not a gift, it's just that we allow for things like this to happen. So where we need a little bit of time to change things, we'll make it happen. Because this is so unusual, I'd like to follow it through. I just can't believe it's like reality.
Given the desperate situation, Paul has come to a decision. He'll persuade the landlord to let the tenant stay one more night. But her only hope for the longer term is the council.
Sorry, you heard that conversation?
I did.
It goes from bad to worse.
Absolutely.
They've sent that girl to Southend with a one-way ticket, no money, into emergency accommodation. She needs somebody who will take up her cause. If I was retired, I'd do that. Unfortunately, I'm working 60 hours a week and I'm not retired.
And also kind of like he despises his job, but then again, who doesn't? Most of the other officers don't really have a personality, but this one guy really annoys me, and we'll get to why later. Overall, I have 2 main problems with the show, outside of the big one that we'll get to later. And that's the fact that these people's lowest moments are being treated as entertainment, and also that the differences in dignity that's afforded to the people based on class seems very deliberate. It's not exactly breaking news that Britain has a class problem. In fact, it's probably about as old as the Magna Carta, or Vikings, or Roy Hodgson, but it's still uncomfortable nonetheless. Let's take one example of when the show is bearable to watch, and then later I'll compare it to a situation I completely despise. In this clip, the best High Court Enforcement Officer Paul is trying to retrieve money for a woman's stolen wages from this knobhead here. He went to court for it, offering to pay £1 a week to a woman he owes £1,800 to, and is refusing to pay because of the principle. After multiple courts had determined that he needed to pay, Paul makes sure he gets the letter and also calmly explains his options and asks about the house with patience, even with this guy sniping at him. This is what the show could have been. Don't get me wrong, I still have problems with this, but it doesn't feel like it's punching down so much. This guy makes it clear that he can pay this, he's just refusing and can afford to go bankrupt over it. So the High Court Enforcement Officers have to do what they can to help the woman who got screwed. On the flip side, there are situations that I find absolutely abhorrent, to the point where I feel that they should not have been aired, and certainly not so a bunch of rich wankers can have a giggle whilst profiting off their misery. I mean, look at how they advertised this programme, for Christ's sake.
What happens when you can't pay the bills?
We're repossession agents and we're currently outside your property.
No money.
Well, I haven't received any other call.
No excuses. Can't Pay Will Take It Away. 9 o'clock Monday on Channel 5.
Some of the agents are deliberately confrontational and have more than an air of arrogance about them. They like to throw their weight around and give it the big one, knowing that the people that they're taking money off can't do anything about it. This also shows that Channel 5 really couldn't give two steaming piles of Sheffield United. Sorry, that was a typo. This also shows that Channel 5 really couldn't give two steaming piles of grade A mega craps about holding a balanced debate, because if they did, then every time this bespectacled mountain of human garbage decided to display his on the show, Channel 5 would say something. The show's sole reason for existence, as it's seemingly the reason of existence for a lot of British society, is so slightly better off people can have a jolly good time punching down. I feel as if now is a good time as any to tell you why I detest this div in particular. Brian O'Shaugnessy comes across as a wanker, and now I'll tell you why. FYI, this section is a lot longer than I anticipated, and in truth the whole video is, because this is basically just a rant video with plenty of evidence but little structure. So in the words of Logan Paul, buckle the up. The first reason I hate him is because of his bullying of some of the people. There is a way to do this kind of job which we see from the other High Court enforcement agents, and this guy clearly doesn't know how to do it. In the High Court Enforcement Officers Association Code of Best Practice, it is written in the opening part that, in order to improve the public's perception of the profession, High Court enforcement officers take a pride in adhering to these standards as exemplars of how enforcement services should be carried out in a responsible and balanced approach between the competing interests of the creditor and debtor, or between claimant and defendant. In April 2014, the Ministry of Justice released Taking Control of Goods National Standards, which set out that enforcement agents must not act in a way likely to be publicly embarrassing to the debtor, either deliberately or negligently. Brian O'Shaugnessy doesn't do that. He's just a dick. Most of his interactions, and indeed most of the interactions in the show, are of people and businesses in desperate and dire circumstances that they have got into via a myriad of different circumstances, pitfalls and decisions. Mr. O'Shaugnessy seems to be of the opinion that everyone is a scummy that just want to keep the money under all circumstances. Yes, there definitely are people that are overly confrontational and or deliberately deceptive and stubborn, but the majority of people on the show are seemingly unaware as to the full extent of what is going on, or don't have the means to stave off the coming debt that threatens their entire existence. It's not a matter of they don't want to pay back the money, it's often that they either can't or don't know what to do. I think the best example of Big Brian here being a condescending narcissist is this episode where he's tasked with getting a few grand from a Turkish restaurant. Completely unrelated tangent by the way, but if you live in Nottingham, you've got to go to this Turkish restaurant on Alfreton Road called Tipu's. It's absolutely majestic. Oh my god, heavenly. Absolute. You take one bite and you feel the gates of heaven open above you. Anyway, back to the video. They enter, and after a bit of fuss they find out that the guy they're looking for is in Swindon of all places. And I have to give my condolences here, because I would rather be a prisoner in a Russian black site than live or have to go through or go to Swindon ever again. But he asks for just 2 more days and they refuse, whilst refusing to elaborate the options, even though the High Court Enforcement Officers Association plainly states that if you are not able to pay the amount you owe in full, you can talk to the High Court Enforcement Officer about your options. Any payment plans will need to be agreed by both the High Court Enforcement Officer and the creditor. Which seems like it would have been useful information for the guy to have been told and might have made everyone's life easier, but hey ho. Outside of that though, the other guy seems calm and helpful when trying to find out who actually owes the money. Then things take a turn. The officers start doing an inventory of goods, which seems a bit overzealous in this situation, but to be fully fair to them, I suppose it has to be done at some point. But then Brian, with no confrontation whatsoever, starts asking,
What's wrong? You upset?
My customer is substance for you.
Halil should have paid his debts then, shouldn't they? If Halil paid his debts, we wouldn't be here.
I don't case Halil no pay.
Well, I do.
Okay, that's not our fault, is it?
And be angry. No. I'll tell you what, in a minute I'll sit with your customers. Do you want me to do that?
That's the line that bothers me most here. It's an unnecessary escalation of the situation which would directly violate the standards that the Ministry of Justice set out in 2014. There's just no need for it. You're supposed to be the level-headed professionals in the room, and you're getting rattled because a man is watching you perform an action that could lead to the end of his employment, and then you want to stand there and ask him what's wrong. He goes on further as well.
I've been nice and I've come back here.
Sure you have.
I'll shut your shop in a minute if you want.
Even if you had no problem with him before, does this not strike you as counterproductive? You owe us money, so I'm going to limit the time that you can operate and bring in a cash flow. That'll help you. Enforcement services should be carried out in a responsible and balanced approach.
It's not his business, though. I don't know why this guy's getting upset. It's not his business.
Ladies and gentlemen, the emotional intelligence of a cantaloupe.
I suppose coffee's out of the question.
Shut the shop, start listing and remove. Yeah? And then yes, I can. Well, we'll see, yeah?
You can't do
We'll see. We'll see.
It's sentences like that delivered with that snarky and condescending tone that really get under my skin. He's so clearly using this job as a way to go on a power trip. He doesn't care that this guy hasn't paid his debts. He just wants to rattle someone with as few consequences as possible. Not only in this job either, but he's also only taken jobs where he gets to be a narcissist. Here he's a high-fort enforcement officer, a high-fort enforcement officer, a high-fort enforcement officer.
What?
Here he's a high-fort enforcement officer, but he's also been a bouncer and worked at a wheel clamping firm, as well as the head of the O2 Arena protection team. And look at that! Of course he's interested. The officers then called the police because somebody was saying some words a bit angrily, and it made them upset.
What started as a simple business debt collection is about to turn into a battle of wills.
Oh, look at that, they can blur faces. Throughout the entirety of the show, Channel 5 like to make it seem as if these guys could snap at any moment, but in reality, even without the police, the odds are very low. I've seen these agents literally sneak into people's houses at the crack of dawn or after dark, and the worst they get are some angry words. It's just pathetic baiting of people that never asked to appear on the show.
I don't want anyone in. I'm seizing all your goods.
Productive.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to show your intent on what you're going to do and let them see the reality of what may occur.
Why did he say that like a Mission Impossible villain? You shut down a failing restaurant for a day. You're just a Gordon Ramsay. They then start stacking chairs despite the fact that they're worth nothing. I put it to you. Which do you reckon is more valuable? Some dirty, scratched and sauce-covered chairs that have been placed onto a takeaway's table, or the industrial goods that are responsible for the making of food that are probably worth about $4,000 each anyway. The only possible reason that I can think that they do this is to get under the staff's skin and force a reaction. It's pointless.
We don't want to take anything from their shop. That's the last thing we want to do.
You've changed your tune since the police arrived. You were gleefully tallying up everything after you didn't mention any sort of payment plan or ask how much they could pay today. They finally start negotiating and the man explains that he can just about come up with £1,000 right there and then.
1,500 is fine. That's the lowest amount.
You
Yeah.
get £1,500.
Yeah. Listen. 1,500 is a lot better than 4,000.
We're
yeah?
gone, and he can pay the rest. He can pay the rest at another time.
He never said differently, he just doesn't know if he can do it. Brian's just such an arse. Do you guys see it yet? He can't just wait to put in an unnecessary swipe.
I like that one.
You. Now some of you might be thinking, oh, he's just doing his job, or he's not like that in real life, or he's been portrayed badly in the show.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
I disagree. I would very happily wager that he wouldn't have returned for the following season if Channel 5 had given him an untrue portrayal. As for whether he's like that in real life, there is an article I want to show you. Contrary to what some might believe, it's not the hit piece regarding his friendship with the bus stop killer. I want to make it very clear that I think that's dumb, and a lot of people in general put too much stock into who other people know and are friends with before they do horrendous things. I'm talking about the time he willingly decided not to pay for a service that was provided to him, and he was taken to court for it. There's a word I'm thinking of, errony, ivory, eremy. Oh, that's it, breach of contract. According to this article from Wiltshire 999S, great name, Fat Brian, which is apparently his nickname before I get cancelled, decided that he didn't have to pay a contractor for work that they did on his house. At the time of the incident, Douglas Teumer, the plumber doing the bathroom renovations, had been rated 9.67 on checkertrade.com by 190 customers. Douglas claimed that Brian was happy with the work I did, but then towards the last days of the job, he wouldn't let me in the house, and that I settled for £1,500 before it went before a judge because I'd already spent thousands on legal fees. My solicitor told me even if I'd won, which I would have, I would still have only walked away with £1,500. Interestingly, the quote of his that I found the most interesting was, as a person, he was quite aggressive and a bully, like he is on TV. I'm only 5'6", but he tries to be quite intimidating with his size. Now obviously there is no video proof of this, so we have to choose for ourselves whose versions of events is most likely true. The plumber of 20 years with a 9.67 checkered trade rating that successfully managed to recoup some of the cost? Or a snippy TV personality who has a track record of thinking he's above the rules? It's difficult to say. After all, agents nor the makers of the law would ever abuse their positions of power. But I think we can close this chapter on the megadick and focus on a different issue with the show. Before speaking of the King of the Knobs, I spoke about a class problem that the show both contains and fuels. Namely, I think that there is an intentionally different set of framing techniques that are entirely dependent on the classes of those involved. More specifically, it is the way the programme shows disputes between those in the middle class and those that are a member of the working class. It's sort of similar to points that I've made earlier, so I'll keep it brief, but just look at the way Channel 5 interviews both parties in the dispute here.
She was contracted to do some work for me on a commission-only basis, and she was disappointed she didn't earn any commission, so she decided to take me to court for non-payment and sent me spurious invoices. She's just trying her luck, and it's as simple as that.
Rebecca Sadler has a different view.
I think the first week we should have got nearly £300 and he paid 60, and then that went on for 6 weeks before I said, if it's not all paid, we'll take him to court.
And how they deal with this dispute.
So what happens to me now?
But basically, you have to leave the property.
Right now?
Right now.
Why don't I do this? I'm trying to get my daughter ready for school.
Listen, I appreciate his hard work.
The middle class get a nice sit down and a chit chat, whilst the working class are lucky to get an interview. Also, they had a special episode where they exclusively showed people on benefits and called it the Benefits Special. I understand that people on benefits are going to be on this show more often on account of them having less money, but it feels callous and intentional to have an entire episode dedicated to people in specific unfortunate circumstances, and I hate it. I also hate that the comments section seems bewildered that people are upset and praising how professionals that represent a business handle the situations. Yes, I'm really confused why the customer service people at an international corporation are less worried than a small business owner whose entire existence is on the line. Also, the comments love to praise the little zingers that the bailiffs like to come up with, which are just completely unprofessional and lacking in empathy. I'm not saying that everybody on here is a saint, but these people are a very easy target, and I find the constant abuse that they all seem to get when they aren't completely cooperative a problem. These people shouldn't have to be jolly whilst watching their lives crumble away, but I suppose a not insignificant amount of the British television audience loves misery.
Hey, no cameras! Get out of here!
The main problem of the show is, of course, the issue of privacy. Channel 5 have repeatedly claimed that they aren't doing this for entertainment, but like 13 Reasons Why, it's trying to start a conversation. Except it's a pretty one-sided conversation when one group of people, i.e. the bailiffs, are so overrepresented and humanised compared to the people that they're constantly coming into contact with. Thank God that Perfect Paul wasn't involved in a high-profile case that would destroy my perception. Paul Bohill, one of the eviction officers, tells the landlord to provoke the tenants and say whatever you like, just give it some welly. He is heard twice saying that it made good television. So that's depressing, but not entirely unexpected. So the privacy issue. During an episode of season 3, the bailiffs decided to go into somebody's house as per, and invited Channel 5 to film it while seemingly inciting the landlord, and Channel 5 got taken to court for it. They'd been on the wrong end of a couple of Ofcom complaints, which is like being barked at by a blind Yorkie, i.e. unthreatening and not going to do anything. But as far as I can tell, this is the only court case that the show has caused. The case notes are very extensive and I'd like to go through them with you. If you've made it this far, then I assume your attention span is good enough for this part. It starts out with some background for why the bailiffs were even there. On the 20th of September 2014, the claimants served a defence admitting service of the notices, but alleging that the claimants had paid a deposit of £1,325 to their agent, Mr. Hussein, by implication for him to pay to Mr. Hanif or Rashid Ahmed, and had not received a receipt. They also asserted that, after service of the notice, it had been agreed between the parties that the claimants could stay until December 2015 if they paid their rent properly. They requested that, if a possession order was made, that they be allowed longer than 14 days to leave the property because they would suffer exceptional hardship, in particular due to Mr. Ali's health. On the 24th of March 2015, the claimants approached the council for assistance with housing and met Ms. Barnes. The claimant's unchallenged evidence was that Ms. Barnes told them that the order for possession was not a sufficient basis for the council to find them alternative accommodation. They should wait until they received a visit from the bailiffs, who would give them 14 days notice of eviction. Once they had received the notice of eviction from the bailiffs, they should request assistance from the council. If they vacated the property before they received the notice of eviction, it was likely that they would be found to be intentionally homeless under the Housing Act 1996 and thus ineligible for council accommodation. The claimants accepted this advice and therefore did not vacate the property on the 30th of March 2015. So there's a reason why they might have been so confused and not vacated the premises. They were given advice to not vacate the premises lest they end up homeless. Then they got told that they were essentially being made homeless anyway. The wonderful world of the British legal systems, everybody. I shouldn't worry though, it's not like my entire professional life will be son of a bitch! Mr. Ali gave evidence that Omar Ahmed telephoned him on the 30th of March 2015 to ask if the claimants were going to vacate the property that day. Mr. Ali said that they would not. They were ready to leave the property, but they would wait for the bailiffs because that was what they had been advised to do by the council. Omar Ahmed said that he would apply to the court for an order for the bailiffs to evict them. Seems cordial enough so far. Neither Rashid's application for the transfer to the High Court nor his application for permission to issue the writ of possession is in evidence. It is common ground, however, that the applications would have been made on paper and disposed of without a hearing. It is also common ground that the claimants were not given any notice of the applications, of the issue of the writ of possession, or of the intention to execute the writ of possession on the 2nd of April 2015. By contrast, Foskett J. records, in his judgment in Gupta at 15, that in this case the tenant was given advance notice of the applications by the HCEO. Finally, it is common ground that, as a consequence of the order of possession and the writ of possession, the claimants were lawfully evicted. Basically, it was a lawful eviction and it's not unusual to not have the applications to submit to evidence. The case then teases us a bit more by giving us the production Bible that was handed out to the crew of Can't Pay Will Take It Away, detailing instructions that they were to follow as closely as possible whilst working on the show. Always try and get a full on-camera release. Clearly tell the contributor, we are filming for Channel 5's Can't Pay Will Take It Away. Are you happy to appear on the programme? Get them to say their full name. Some cases don't need consent according to Channel 5. Consent is overrated. Always ensure that the contributors have had an explanation about the programme from the director of AP in the filming as per the legal note script. Always try and speak to the contributors after filming or during filming. Make it very clear that you cannot give any guarantees. Channel 5 make decisions about the broadcast. If the GoPros that the agents wear are questioned, we have a protocol to follow. The agents, or you, must make it clear that the agents' cameras are for their own protection, but Channel 5 do have access to the material. Should the defendant wish to complain, they have the chance to do so immediately after the shoot. More detail on GoPros later in the document. Your job is not to make decisions about who will and won't be shown. Channel 5 do that. We need to be asking everyone who interacts with you or the agents for consent, except people named on a High Court writ of possession. Or in other words, anybody except the people who you were there to film without warning. Terrific, no problems there. Writs of possession. What to say to the person named on the writ. Explain what you are doing. As above, you don't need to ask for their consent to appear, nor do you need to ask for their consent for you to be there. The agents, acting on behalf of the landlord, have given you access to the property. Channel 5's view is that you don't need consent to be there, or consent to show the face of the person named on the writ. The writ is a legal document, and that means that the tenant is now trespassing, not you. So long as Channel 5 is satisfied then. And their details are in the public domain, so they can be identified. You sure? Tell them you're not obliged to speak, but we'd like to interview you about your experiences and how they have made you feel. If we can't talk to you, the viewers will only see you and the High Court enforcement agents doing their job, and they won't hear from you. Well, in my limited legal opinion, I'm absolutely flabbergasted as to how this case won when Channel 5 had such rigorous guidelines.
Do I detect a note of sarcasm?
Are you kidding me? This baby is off the charts.
The next noteworthy thing in the case is the transcript of the key points from the unedited footage, and this bit is from when the male tenant that's being kicked out asks what's going on. Mr. Ali, tell me, why are you recording? Mr. Bohill, because we are. Mr. Raya, we're doing a programme for Mr. Bohill, essentially cutting him off. It's okay. So this is a writ of possession. We've now repossessed the house, and the procedure is this. We'll give you an hour to get your personal belongings together, medication, clothes for tonight for you and your wife, or whoever, and after that hour, we will lock the property, change the locks, and you will need to speak to the landlord to clear out whatever other property you've got here. As he said the words, "It's okay," Mr. Bohill held up his hand to Mr. Rea. It is clear the message he was conveying to Mr. Rea was to stop speaking. Really following the production Bible here, Paul. Mr. Ali expressed surprise at only being given 1 hour and said that he had been told there would be a few weeks after expiry of the order. Mr. Bohill explained that the landlord had gone to the High Court and the system was different. 8:44, Mr. Ali said while holding up his hand, "Please, my wife says don't record. My wife says no record, thank you, alright." That's not the last time we'll be hearing his objection to being filmed. Omar Ahmed, one of the landlords who essentially turned up just to antagonise the tenants, was addressing Mr. Ali, who had his back turned to Omar Ahmed, while filming him on his mobile phone saying, "Liars, this is Shakir Qureshi, main spokesman in the UK for Muslim League, getting evicted today by the High Court. All the lies on the Quran, he lies on the Holy Quran that he paid a deposit, and the next day he falls down and breaks his leg. No shame on this man, no shame. I had to pay so much money to get him out via High Court, and now he can't even face the camera. He's that much ashamed." As you can see, tensions are low, and everyone is calm. At 8:55, Mr. Bohill left the room and said to Omar Ahmed, "Just say whatever you like. You're okay. You're okay. I won't be stopping you." The film crew followed Mr. Bohill to the front door. By this time, the Ahmeds were standing outside the property. Rashid Ahmed was on his mobile phone and he could be heard saying the words Channel 5. Mr. Bohill continued to Omar Ahmed, "No, no, say whatever you like, just give it some welly. You know it makes good television." Fantastic. Well, Paul, that was a proper Brian move. Mr. Rea. The television people though, the audience are going to wonder why you've not paid the rent for so many months. Mr. Ali, it was only because of my circumstances. My income has gone to like zero. I was not earning any money, and they gave me 6 months. But suddenly they bring court notice, eviction order, and now it is again very sudden. I never believed it can happen like this, like 1 hour, but anyway. Whatever the law is asking, I'm trying to do, Mr. Rea. And what about this evening? Where will you stay this evening? Mr. Ali, I have to figure it out. I have to figure it out. And kindly, this is my and my wife's bedroom. He then says something unclear. Let us pack the stuff so that we can move out on time. Good to know that the TV cameras aren't negatively affecting the bailiffs in any way whatsoever. At 9:14, Mrs. Aslam, the wife of the male tenant being evicted and the eldest female being evicted, came upstairs and was filmed by the crew collecting some belongings from the bedrooms. She asked them not to film her, saying, "Excuse me, no," but they carried on. Further proof that consent is a foreign concept to Channel 5. The next bit is after the tenant calls the police and they arrive. Mr. Bohill, it's good though. It's terrific television. Nice to see priorities are straight. PC Smith, it is good. It's quite alright, isn't it? This one will definitely be on there. Mr. Bohill, absolutely spot on. But it's a genuine case though. PC Smith, yeah. Mr. Bohill, well, you just heard him talking. You heard the story. You heard the landlord's story. I mean, I've seen the court paperwork. He owes the money. That's what I've just said to him. I'll come and talk to you about the arrears. He's never gonna do that. PC Smith. No. Mr. Bohill. What we need is a bit of fisticuffs, really. PC Smith. If one of them gets arrested. Mr. Bohill. Yeah, we'll do that. I'm not saying that this is what happened, but you could very easily read this as them tentatively throwing out the idea of needing arrest and trying to fan the flames to get one. Now we get the court documents of what Channel 5 showed.
According to latest surveys, the cost of renting a home in the UK is spiralling out of control. Over the last 3 months, rent has risen 5 times faster than tenant income. Those living in the London area are hit hardest, where the average rent is now £1,500 a month.
Channel 5 had a narrator say that and put an effect to make it sound like it was a radio broadcast. It also shows you why there might be some issues. It's not people refusing to pay, they just can't keep up. From 4th of August 2015 until 20th of December 2016, the programme was broadcast 36 times on 4 television stations owned by Channel 5. those being Channel 5, My 5, 5 Star and 5 Spike. It was viewed 9,420,000 times via these media from the 4th of August 2015 until the 18th of April 2017. It was also made available on demand via a website owned by Channel 5 called www.my5.tv. During this time, it was viewed online 230,393 times. In total, the programme has been watched 9,650,393 times. That's certainly more than the few people that would have seen them in an hour on the street. Maybe they were onto something with this. We then see that Mr. Ali wasn't a fan, unlike presumably 9,650,392 other people were. Channel 5 contends that Mr. Ali consented to the broadcasting of the programme, or at least of most of the key information in the programme, by agreeing to be interviewed on camera at 9:31, paragraphs 106 to 107 above, and that Mrs. Aslam did not dissociate herself from this. Counsel for Channel 5 suggested that Mr. Ali had also agreed to being interviewed on camera a second time after leaving the property at 9:42. In my view, the Rushers do not support this suggestion, but this does not matter because Mr. Ali clearly did agree to being interviewed at 9:31. Accordingly, Channel 5 contends that the claimants waived their right to privacy. Although both counsel treated this as an aspect of the issue of reasonable expectation of privacy, I find it more convenient to deal with it separately. Ah yes, consent is when you start after they say no and put them into a situation where they kind of have to say yes.
Because if the girl said no, then the answer obviously is no.
No.
But the thing is she's not gonna say no. She would never say no because of the implication.
The next point is that Mr. Ali first asked for an explanation of the presence of the film crew at 8:29, paragraph 76, and then objected to being filmed at 8:43, paragraph 79, and at 9:16, paragraph 100. Between those objections, Mr. Ali asked the crew to leave the bedroom at 9, paragraph 88. Furthermore, Mr. Ali shut the bedroom door several times, obviously in an attempt to exclude the film crew. Reliance was placed by counsel for Channel 5 upon the fact that at 9:36, Mr. Ali objected to Omar Ahmed filming and said, "You are filming, this is enough," paragraph 107. Given that Mr. Ali had already objected to being filmed twice without avail, however, I consider that the sense he was conveying was that filming by the crew was bad enough without Omar Ahmed filming as well. Staggeringly, a British judge actually took breach of consent seriously and realised that a tepid, borderline coerced agreement was not true consent. Looking at the matter in the round, I consider that an appropriate sum of damages is £10,000 for each claimant. I would have awarded a higher figure if it had not been for the postings by the Ahmeds. So he awarded the tenants £10,000, only mitigated by the fact that he was having his privacy separately breached. You might be thinking, Taylor, why do you care? They got their money, and it all worked out alright. It didn't. According to this Guardian article, one of their children, who also had their bedroom broadcast to millions, was bullied at school as a direct result of this. They even mention it in the case, and it was so bad that their dad had to talk to their school. Personally, I feel most people that were forced into consenting to be a part of the show would have some sort of good case against Channel 5. Obviously it would depend on when and why they consented, but I'd stake my life on at least somebody else having a decent case. Also, if I worked at Channel 5, I'd read that, take a step back, and just wonder whether or not this endless parade of misery was actually starting a debate, or wonder whether or not the spectacle of sadness just led to ridicule and sadness. So to summarise, why do I absolutely detest this screaming waste of a show? It's poverty porn that exacerbates class issues for, quote, entertainment, unquote. The bailiffs are unprofessional arseholes that seem to enjoy some of the misery they inflict for the cameras, and the privacy of anybody on a writ is massively violated for a profit that they will never see, and it sucks. Thank you all for watching. If you did get this far, then please do subscribe, as this was the longest single video I've ever made, and I'd recommend checking out my shorter ones. Bye.